All right, in this tutorial, we'll take a look at Mixamo, which is coming to us and was absorbed by Adobe, which has some characters, can go through certain actions, and then rigged to a character that we can take that and put it into Unreal. So let me jump out of that for a second. We'll get back to that in just a moment. Just to kind of give a preview of what we will have at the end of this, we do have we're building out our file here. I'm going to start with a new third person just so that it's a lot cleaner inside of here. But basically what we're looking at is we'll create a Mixamo folder for each one of our characters. Here we have Yarko. And if I jump into Yarko's folder, we can see that he has some of the files that I'm looking for. So this is his idle animation. We have a running animation, his regular T-pose, and a walking animation. And we'll be able to transition between those in Engine. And then I have a folder just to keep things a little bit cleaner so that I don't have to search for anything, but has all of his materials as well as some of his physics. And I've just named that materials and physics. Okay, so we'll go over to Mixamo.com, owned by Adobe, and sign in with our Adobe credentials, our Adobe ID. You can choose Browse Characters at this time, or just use the characters up at the top. The first thing we want to do is get our character, which is going to be a larger file size, in their T-pose. So I'm going to use this Erica Archer character and download that. So I'll just click Download. And you'll notice because there's no animation piped to her at this time, it is not going to have any of the timing aspect to it, none of the frame rate or anything like that. So I will choose FBX binary and then choose T-pose and choose download. I'm also going to go over to animations and start to find the animation that I want for my character. A few things I do want to consider for this. We just move around here a little bit. I'm just clicking and dragging, middle mouse button, clicking in, and then right clicking and dragging to zoom in. So you can situate yourself wherever you would like to. Down here at the bottom, it is helpful to understand. You can use the skeleton view. You can rotate, I guess, by doing it like this. I don't know. I don't use these. I just use my mouse. There's also the reset camera. So if you get a little crazy, and then also the follow camera. So let me show how that could be helpful. I'll just type in run here or jog or something like that. So I think I used this one at one point. Right, so you can see how she, and again, these are motion capture files, so you can see how she's physically running away from the camera. If I wanted to follow her through that action, I could do that here. I'm going to toggle that off and reset the camera, so I'm back at the, the origin. Some of these are very specific, and you'll notice over here to the side that there's this mirror. So notice how she sort of turned over her left shoulder. Now she'll turn over her right shoulder. Okay, which is great. That can provide a lot of flexibility. But basically, whatever you see here is what's going to pipe into your character. So right now, what I'm trying to do is actually get her to be in place because this will, make a transition animation that I may not want for our pipeline. Here we go. So I'll choose that one for now and choose in place. And now we can see that she looks like she's running on a treadmill. And that's what I want because I can just take the character and use the position animation inside of Unreal to actually get this to work. So great, there's a couple things inside of here that I do have control over. One in particular is helpful because these are all the same motion capture files. So if I have one of these bulkier characters, for example, you might notice that, actually he looks pretty good. You might notice that his arms or something, and I'm just gonna pause this and try to scrub through to see if we can find something here. It actually does really, really well. Oh, right there. Okay, so we can see his like big meaty hand is going through his torso here. So this is where arm space might be helpful. So I'll just really throw that out so you can see how that would make a difference. Or if they, it was a bigger character and then you have a smaller, target that you might want to tuck those arms in a little bit more. Okay, but as it is, I'm going to go back to our character here. Do keep in mind, there's two of these characters. There's one, she doesn't have the bow, and there's another one that she does have the bow somewhere. So stick with the one without the bow at this time. Okay. So it looks pretty good. I can, if I wanted her her arms out further, right? 50 is the default. Overdrive, just to show you, right? Versus like something a little bit slower. So if we wanted her more to jog rather than run, maybe that actually feels good, just like a jog. And then as far as this, we'll do a lot of this inside of Engine, but we can have it last for longer. Let's see how I don't like that at all. I'm going to reset that and have it work for us. The nice thing about the defaults here is that it loops perfectly, which is perfect for what we want. We want to just recycle this and, you know, if she's running, it is running. So great, so I've set the settings for what I would like to save within the FBX that's just targeting her skeleton that I will then place onto the T-pose character that we saw previously. So this looks good, I'll choose download. Since this does have animation to it, you'll notice we have a few more aspects here. We still want the FBX, but in this case, we already have the skin, that's our T-pose, so we don't want the skin, we just want the animation data, and that will also make this FBX file much smaller. Since we're targeting film, I am going to switch over to 24 frames per second, but depending on your pipeline, that might change to 60 or 30. And I'm not going to do anything about the keyframe. So these are the settings we need for this class, and I'll choose download. And let's do an idle. Okay, so I just want her to stand there. I don't want her to try to be like fighting somebody. So you can see here's a good example of where I might push the arm space. Here it is, but you can also see how there's a little bit more that we can control. So she's kind of swaying too much for me and like breathing a little too heavily. So I might take that down and make her stop breathing, apparently. There we go. And maybe not so much on the sway. Gives you an idea of the different sliders that you can have at your fingertips. A lot of customization, which is really, really nice. So I'll go back to one of the other ones. This one's a little silly for what we need. Standing like she's ready to fight, prepared. It looks good. If I wanted to mirror it over to the other side, I'll do that just so that we can see it. And I'll hit download on this one as well. Same thing, it should you know, keep the same settings, but you do want to check because we don't want the skin on this. It will be larger and it won't target our T-pose. And 24 frames per second is required. So I'll let that download. So flipping over to Unreal, I did just load a new level for the third person just so that it's a little bit easier to see for the starter content and trying to populate some of the items that we're looking for ingesting Mixamo. And you can see here that I did have these files. This one is our T-pose, this one's just our idle and our running. Because we are going to have multiple characters, and yes, we will have running that is, you know, for our other characters, but it could actually hypothetically pipe to that character coming from Mixamo, but we want the running to look like this character's running. So I am going to rename these based off of how I'm going to work with it inside of Engine. So this is our Vera character. So I'll just call this Vera_T-pose so that I know exactly what that is. Or just Vera is fine for this as well. I'll just give these the tag of Vera. Vera running and Vera idle. Hypothetically, we could use this inside of folders, but this might make it a little bit easier just as you go step by step. So great, so inside of Engine here, I'm going to go underneath my content and create a new folder. I could also do that simply by right-clicking here and choosing new folder. So here it is, I'm going to call this Mixamo. So let me select it here and hit F2, and I'll type in Mixamo. So I'll start with my Vera character. And as I mentioned, I'm going to create a folder for each one of them. So this is for Vera. And I'll jump in there. The first one I want to do is her T-pose. So I'll simply click and drag that into her folder. And we'll get this import options happening here. So we do want the skeleton. That's going to be what is driven by these other FBX animation files. We do want to import the mesh. That's important because we want to see her. Right, and we can see that, you know, the skeleton here, we're not trying to redirect her to anybody else. We're just trying to use the skeletal mesh that's inside of this FBX. I don't have any information as far as animation on this FBX because it is her T-pose. So I'm going to leave that blank. And we do want to make sure that the materials are active, right? So that they are creating new materials associated with this FBX file. So I'll choose import at this time. And here we go. So you can see that it's starting to compile the shaders. I'm going to leave that open here so that we can grab our other ones, but maybe I'll just make that a slightly bit larger. And you can see that it's populating inside of there, which can be a little much. So I am going to, just to focus for us, right click and say new folder and just call this materials and physics. And I'll take everything except for the little pink one and throw it into that folder, just so that we can concentrate a little bit more cleanly here. And I'm choosing move here for both of those, the materials and that. You can see the little star, so I do want to say file and say save all. And now she's ready to go. But I do want to bring in her, her animation. So we have her T-pose already came in. Now I'm going to bring in the running. So I'll do this one at a time. I'll click and drag that in there, and I get the same FBX import options. But this time you'll notice it's a slightly, a little bit different. The main component here is because this one doesn't have a skin, doesn't have materials, it's just the animation. So I do want to make sure that I'm telling this animation who it's going to try to control and what it can be an option underneath. So I'm going to choose the skeleton here and grab my character. You'll notice here that the default third-person character is also listed here. So I could use any of these to, generate animation on the mannequin, the typical one that's inside of the third person. But that one already comes with a lot of robust animation. So we're going to target our Vera. And that's it. That's all we need for that one. So I'll choose import, and we'll see it there. Same thing for the idol. So I'll click and drag that in. And same thing, I just want to target Vera and say import. And now if I bring her, let me just save everything out here, so save all. Now if I bring her into here, you'll notice now she doesn't have anything going on for her, but when we actually go to create the content for our sequences, we'll be able to use these animations because they're tied to her T-pose. So I would repeat that for my other characters, create a new folder based off of the character, and then pipe in this same type of content. And again, I could take this same idle animation and target another file because it's simply motion captured data. It's not specific to her because it's just animation file. But we do want to make it feel like it's her idol. It's not just anybody's idol that comes in, which is why we renamed it here. So this is what we're looking for, and you'll want to create your other characters that we are good to go for our sequences.